Chip Kelly is so in love with Mariota, he just asked his father for permission to draft him.
Jameis Winston, he can play too much trouble anyway. No interest in a linebacker or defensive back. Don't matter who disagrees, Jeff Lurie gave me the keys. I'm the man in charge of this, I'll take a quarterback. Roseman's out of personnel, Marcus knows my system well. What an arm and he can run, I love him like a son. Nick Foles, take a hike. Mark Sanchez, I don't like. Need a frickin' quarterback, do anything to get it done. I'm in love with Mariota. His desire's burning, he won't take much learning. I'm in love with Mariota. Got me all excited, ain't no way to fight it. Cornerback, free safety, neither one excites me. Looking for a QB as good as Andrew Luck. Need a guy with quickness and a football PhD. The quarterbacks I have stink on a draft, another duck. I could trade Fletcher Cox, throwing Howie Sweat socks. I'm the king of everything, no one to interfere. Shady and some draft picks, give them everything they want. Either way, we get this kid, or I'm walking out of here. I'm in love with Mariota. His desire's burning, he won't take much learning. I'm in love with Mariota. Got me all excited, ain't no way to fight it.
Alright, welcome inside the nest here on NFL Offseason, brought to you by Sports Blog. I am your host, Louis DiBiase. You can follow me on Twitter at DBSportsTalk. I'm welcoming you here on my first edition of this podcast. It's on Lou's Eagles page here on NFL Offseason. We're going to do a little bit of draft rankings, mock drafts, free agency stuff on the site. But get my favorite team here, the Eagles, a page, so I can post content, weekly podcast every Wednesday here. Inside the Eagles Nest is what the podcast is called. So welcome to the first ever edition. It's going to be a free agency recap edition. Today we're going to be talking about mostly what this crazy offseason means for the Eagles and the future of this team, with Chip Kelly being the most interesting man in the NFL after some crazy decisions in January with the power moves that ended up unseating Howie Roseman as the general manager and ended up making Chip Kelly full command of football operations, which really was kind of surprising. I mean, we, after hearing everything through the radios, 94 WIP and 97.5 The Fanatic, you almost thought Chip Kelly was gone after the firing of Tom Gamble, who that Monday after the season ended said what a great football mind Tom Gamble was, and how he kind of threw Howie under the bus, saying he was only more of a salary cap guy, and how he did that as a great job. Chip Kelly continues to say what a great work relationship that Howie Roseman and Chip have, but it doesn't really seem that way. He also kind of threw most of the responsibility of that power shift on owner Jeffrey Lurie, saying it was all his decision. I mean, obviously it was Lurie's final decision, but I knew Chip came up with this plan, and everyone thought really Chip was gone. He was going to head back to college. Just really couldn't work with Howie, and since Howie was Jeffrey Lurie's quote-unquote right-hand man, that there was no way that Lurie was going to choose Chip Kelly over Howie Roseman, who he chose over Andy Reid, Joe Banner, you name it, all the front office shuffles, and now you're giving Chip Kelly full command after 2 seasons as head coach, where both times he went 10-6. The first time lost in the wild card berth to the New Orleans Saints, and the second time, we couldn't get over the hump after injuries and turnovers plagued the team throughout the majority of the season. So that's what happened early on in January, where Chip Kelly got full command. And that really, at first, it was quiet. You didn't hear from Chip Kelly. Fans were upset. I was upset. I definitely wanted to hear what Chip had to say about all the movement. He was silent, and it struck me the wrong way. I didn't think that that was right, but he's not going to talk to the media unless he has an obligation to, and he didn't feel at that time that was something that the fans needed to know, and I don't know how that isn't, putting them through the stress of thinking we're losing another head coach. Jeffrey Lurie clearly thinks that Chip Kelly has the ability to get the Eagles to the Super Bowl. Well, the moves that he's been making in the month of March, pre-free agency, and right now we're right in the middle of it, suggest he's going all in, and maybe this could either blow up in his face and he could be out the door in a couple years, or this could get us a Lombardi trophy within a few seasons. The biggest first move was the LeSean McCoy trading to the Buffalo Bills for linebacker Kiko Alonso, who 2 years ago was a runner-up for Rookie of the Year. He posted incredible numbers with the Buffalo Bills before tearing his ACL last year before the season started, when he was working out over at Oregon, and really couldn't get back throughout the season. He's ready to go now. 2 ACL tears now he has had, and that's really been the story of the offseason for the Eagles, is going after these injured players that maybe are diamonds in the rough because of injuries people are scared away from him. Chip Kelly believes in his sports science program, but my initial reaction to the LeSean McCoy move was they're going all in for Marcus Mariota, and we're gonna get into Mariota a good amount here on this edition of Inside the Nest. But I thought, we're gonna here we are building up defense right now through free agency and through trades. You get Kiko Alonso to go with Michael Kendricks, and D'Amico Ryan's probably the best inside linebacking core the NFL has to offer in Philadelphia here. And you go through free agency in the draft. Free agency to go address defense, to maybe give up picks and Nick Foles to go get Marcus Mariota. Well, that wasn't the case after trading LeSean McCoy. And first, before we get into the whole other acquisitions, McCoy only said great things about Philadelphia. He was shocked. He was upset at first, but he got his money in Buffalo. He's going to be the focal point in that offense, and I expect him to do great things there. One of my favorite player over the past 5 years that he's been with the team since being drafted in 2009. Some just great memories. Obviously, he is the all-time leading rusher in Philadelphia Eagles history. I have his jersey. I'm sure a lot of people have his jersey. And by the way, do not go out and start investing in Eagles jerseys right now. Failure after failure. We lost Jeremy Maclin, which was probably the most upsetting thing Chip Kelly did this offseason. And I was okay with the McCoy deal because I think Kiko is going to be a great asset. And I think LeSean McCoy just didn't fit the scheme of Chip Kelly's offense, where you really need a north-south one-cut runner, minus LeSean McCoy's dancing style that really just did not suit Chip Kelly well. And they didn't get along. And Chip Kelly doesn't like big personalities because he is a big personality, and they can butt heads a lot. And I feel like that's what happened with DeSean Jackson last year, and that's what happened with LeSean McCoy again this year. And he's going to get his guys, and I'm okay with that as long as we replace LeSean McCoy, which we definitely did, and we'll get into that. But I'm going to talk about the Jeremy Maclin thing here real quick. When you lose DeSean Jackson, your star receiver, the year before, off of rumors of why you cut him, and he goes off to another NFC East rival and ends up costing you your season after a game-winning touchdown, and you watch that blow up in your face. Not sure. Obviously, the offense was still very productive, but we went from a year being the fewest turnovers to the most in the NFL, and we went from having DeSean Jackson and possibly Jeremy Maclin being fully healthy, and a Riley Cooper who's coming off a very impressive season, to Riley Cooper at a very limited form that really was ineffective this season, and you had Jeremy Maclin doing an incredible job, almost double reflected DeSean's numbers the year before, and did even then some, even better. But just imagine what you could have had with DeSean and Jeremy, and you're getting rid of star power. Chip believes in his scheme, so you trade away LeSean McCoy, that's all right. But the Maclin one stings me. It really does. Finally breaking over 1,000 yards last season, double-digit touchdowns. It's a tough one to swallow. It really is. I was upset. I think, and I understand where they're at. It's not like the Eagles, Chip didn't want him, so it's not like he was deciding we're not going after him. They offered him a contract. They offered him $9 million. They obviously didn't think he was worth $11 million, which is what the Chiefs paid him and what Maclin felt he was worth. And that's debatable. I do not think he should be paid like a top 5 receiver either, which he will be right now, around top 5 to top 6. But man, you spend $13 million on Sam Bradford, who we'll get into in a second, to play quarterback, and you can't throw in another $2 million for Jeremy Maclin, who you need desperately on this offense, because now what you're left over with is second-year Jordan Matthews, who had a great year last year in the slot, had 875 yards and 8 touchdowns. And really, that's it. You got Riley Cooper, who honestly I think is a lost cause at this point. I really do. And then you have Josh Huff, who has a lot of upside, but you didn't see much from him last year either. We are banking on the development of these 2 young receivers, now losing Maclin, going over to his hometown team in the Chiefs, and rejoining Big Red Andy Reid. God bless Andy Reid, but man, that stings that he stole our guy from us. And it might come back to bite us, but Chip believes in scheme on offense and clearly talent on defense, and that's what he really addressed through free agency. So after losing Maclin, we used some of that money to go get the prize possession of free agency in Byron Maxwell, which I thought was a great signing. We parted ways with Kerry Williams and Bradley Fletcher, which I thought was a great move. Those two really were ineffective last season. Almost, to me, cost us our season. I was sick and tired of seeing them in the lineup each and every week. When you had guys like Nolan Carroll and Brandon Boykin not getting limited snaps because Chip was just too stubborn. Billy Davis just would not make a lineup change in it, and it cost us down the stretch in the end. You know, that 3-touchdown performance by Dez Bryant over Bradley Fletcher after the Eagles came back, soaring back 24-21. Fletcher cost us all that momentum in that game, and that ended up costing us the season when you can't get wins against them and the Seattle Seahawks. Kerry Williams goes on to join the Seattle Seahawks, so basically Maxwell and Williams switch spots. Maxwell gets a pretty big contract. He's going to average about $10 million a year guaranteed over 5 to 6 years. But it's a great start in the rebuilding process of the secondary. You know, you have Malcolm Jenkins holding down one safety spot, and then you have Byron Maxwell, a lengthy corner, 6'1", great in press coverage, and you saw Richard Sherman blanket one side of the field, so offenses were targeting Byron Maxwell, and he really held his own last year. He did a great job. Just look what he did in that NFC Championship game, making some great plays, and he's a very good tackler, and he fits exactly what Chip Kelly's trying to do. So I think he's going to be a great piece, and people that are saying he get paid too much, yeah, he probably did, but that's how free agency works. To get productive players, you're going to maybe have to overpay a little bit more than what they're worth because of what other teams value at those positions. So Byron Maxwell was a great signing at corner. As for the secondary, I think I really like, I said on Twitter, the most underrated signing this season with all these offseason moves, which is, you know, the Eagles are the biggest story of the NFL with all the moves they have made. And it's fun to be an Eagles fan at this point in time, but Walter Thurmond, to me, was a great pickup here. He missed most of the season last year besides 2 games after a pectoral tear. He joined the New York Giants in free agency last season after having a great year in 2013 with the Seattle Seahawks. Played a lot of outside and slot. He can do a little bit of both. Chip Kelly said that he's going to compete with Brandon Boykin and Nolan Carroll for the outside job. It was only a 1-year deal, so it's kind of a prove-it deal. Make sure if he's healthy. Now, if he's not healthy, then you can always let him go after 1. But I think this really opens up a window of opportunity for Boykin to try to win that outside spot. Chip Kelly gave acknowledgement to Boykin that he can compete to win that job. But, you know, they're both going to be, both contracts will expire this year with Boykin and Thurmond, so you're going to have to find one of those guys are going to have to be extended. And I think both are going to have great seasons, but if I had to predict right now, I would say Walter Thurmond is on the outside. A very aggressive corner, just like Maxwell. They were teammates in Seattle. I think it's going to be a great 1-2 punch. So you're already improved at secondary last year. Your defense is far better than it was last year. You know, you still have that young core of defensive linemen. You lock up Brandon Graham after losing Trent Cole to now the Indianapolis Colts, the second leader. Most sacks in Eagles history is Trent Cole, only behind Reggie White. But you were able to re-sign Brandon Graham after what seemed like a really impossible situation for Graham to come back to Philadelphia. You thought he was going to go join a team that maybe fit his mold better in a 4-3 defense where he could play defensive end. But the Eagles stole him from the Giants, who were really making a push for him. We maintained Graham. He's going to probably start on the opposite side of Connor Barwin. You still got Cox, Logan, and Thornton in the inside. And now you got Kiko and Michael Kendricks in the inside. This defense can be very, very good next year, and as long as that secondary can hold up with Jenkins, Maxwell, and Thurmond. The only question now is safety, and I believe that the Eagles will address that in the draft if they can maybe go get Landon Collins in the first round. If they can't get him, though, then you're probably going to see a stopgap guy like DeJuan Landry, someone of that nature in free agency maybe within the next few weeks. But I definitely think Landon Collins could be on the horizon because teams really don't. Obviously, all teams could use a very productive safety, but with all the other team needs, I think Landon Collins could possibly fall to Philadelphia. So if you can get him, I think you have a very good player at every starting position, and I think the secondary would be much improved from Nate Allen, Kerry Williams, and Bradley Fletcher. Bradley Fletcher, by the way, got signed by the Patriots for a 2-year deal. Can you imagine if that guy just goes over to New England and lights it up and possibly wins a Super Bowl? Or Kerry Williams. I mean, I got a guy on Twitter arguing with me that Kerry Williams is around the same, if not a better player than Byron Maxwell, but because Kerry Williams was so bad last year because of Nate Allen. Now, yes, that's a great point. Maxwell had some all-pro safeties behind him, but He was a. I watched him. If you're going off of statistics, yes, Kerry Williams maybe not far off. But if you just do pure eye test, which is what I really value in sports, you can tell Byron Maxwell is a much better player, and he's a much more athletic and younger player. So for the defensive side, I'm very, very confident. I think Billy Davis is going to have a lot to work with this season. So the defensive side, Chip Kelly's done very well in his first season as head of personnel, but remember the dream team year. That's all I'm saying. You can't base everything off of free agency. Chip knows that. He said in his press conference that he wants to build this team through the draft, and that hopefully they won't have to be big buyers in free agency for a long. And I definitely see the point in that. They have a lot of young players on defense already, and most of these guys are the veterans coming in like Walter Thurmond and whoever safety you get, or might just be stopgaps. But everybody else on that defense are young playmakers that have shown that they can play in the league. You're not going out to get Cullen Jenkins and Nnamdi Asomugha and guys that are maybe on the decline of their career. We got guys right now, right going into their prime, or maybe already dead in their prime. So the defenses I'm very confident in, and I think that the Walter Thurmond is my pick for the best signing in free agency. I'll say for defense. How about that? Because on offense, we have a lot of stuff going on. So obviously you lose LeSean McCoy and Jeremy Maclin, but you make another blockbuster trade, 2 in 2 weeks. So everyone's thinking, all right, the Eagles are going to use Nick Foles. They're going to use their first-round draft pick. They're going to try to maybe package a couple other players in there to try to go get Marcus Mariota. You know, I heard ties that if Mariota is at 6, where the Jets pick, the Eagles, quote, will 100% go get Marcus Mariota. You know, you heard the Titans at 2. The Eagles could package Nick Foles and a first this year, next year, maybe a second, to go get Marcus Mariota. All over Philadelphia radio, all you heard was Marcus Mariota. Well, Chip Kelly maybe... And I was talking to a fellow Eagles fan. What if Chip Kelly wanted Mariota? I mean, this is just Chip Kelly's ego. I mean, it would not put me past Chip Kelly to be like, you know what? I'm just going to go do it different. I want this guy. Nick Foles was traded on 4 o'clock. The dead heap start of NFL free agency. Nick Foles traded to the St. Louis Rams. And a 4th-round pick this year. And a 2nd-round pick next year. For Sam Bradford, former 1st overall pick, who's coming off of 2 torn ACLs. And only a 5th this season. My initial reaction was, my face went pale. I felt sick to my stomach. I was one of the biggest Mariota supporters there was. And you go out and you get a former 1st overall pick. Huge upside. Very, very talented quarterback. Great arm. Incredible accuracy, but the health, you're banking on the health, and you're giving up a very good quarterback in Nick Foles and a 2nd next year. So the investment first off on Bradford is very risky, and if that could pay off, if Mark Sanchez to me can play good in this offense, Sam Bradford will be a very good quarterback next year. But that's not the point. I believe that as long as Bradford can stay healthy, this team could be a playoff team with him. But I want Marcus Mariota. This offense could go to new heights with Marcus Mariota. And the initial report on NFL Network from Albert Breer was the Eagles traded Nick Foles in the 20th overall pick for the 10th overall pick in Sam Bradford. And I'm foaming at the mouth because we are going to use that 10th overall pick and Sam Bradford to jump up to number 2 or to number 5 or 6. And go get Marcus Mariota, no matter what happens. Say you talk to the Titans and they're not going to take Mariota. Alright, fine. You go up to 5 with Washington or the Jets, who like Bradford. Maybe better than Mariota. He fits his scheme. And you go out and get Marcus Mariota to run that offense. That would have made me felt so much better about losing Maclin and McCoy. It would have been all worth it. I would have been totally fine with it. Well, that trade quickly turned into what I described earlier, and at that point again it was meltdown mode. I'm trying to think, hold on, is there more to this? Does Chip Kelly have another thing off his sleeve? If there's got to be more, right? Chip comes out in a press conference and says Sam is our quarterback, and I'm alright with that, but for now. Is he lying though? Because the Browns reportedly offered the Eagles a 19th overall pick for Marcus Mariota. Now, why would you say that out of the blue and no one asked you about it if you weren't maybe trying to get a team like the Titans to hear, whoa, someone else is going for this guy. Maybe we ought to lower the price for this pick so the Eagles can come get Mariota. We take Bradford. We take a first this year. And maybe you take a first next year. I'm okay with that. But Chip said we, quote, won't mortgage our future for Marcus Mariota. He believes Marcus is the best quarterback in the draft. Well, what mortgage the future to us may not mean what it means to him. So imagine the spinoff when the Eagles trade Bradford to the Titans, and in the press conference when they ask him, I thought you said you weren't going to mortgage your future. Chip said, well, we don't feel we mortgage our future here. We had an opportunity to upgrade a position, and blah 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 blah. That's exactly what I could see happening. The price, though, might be too much for Mariota. Heck, someone thinks he might fall after that shaky pro day. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to go top 6. And if not top 6, he'll go top 10. Someone else will go get him, maybe Cleveland at 12. If Philadelphia can't go up and jump up and get him. My only initial reaction, I think it's still possible the Eagles go out and get Mariota, but why would you then give up a second-round pick next year's draft to get Bradford? Is it that another team the Eagles were talking with that might trade for him, so the Eagles go up and get Mariota wouldn't want to give up that second? So they have the Eagles go get him and then give him to him? Is that what it was? Because if that's what it was, I'm okay with that, yeah. But after hearing Chip, and obviously, you know, words are deceptive. Words are deceiving, excuse me. I believe him. And you're hearing about the contract talk. You're hearing maybe they want to extend him because he's due to make $13 million this year. So with those two things in mind, I feel like Mariota is getting very bleak. It's not over by any stretch, because the Eagles could right now not pay Sam Bradford any of that money. They can cut him after maybe getting Mariota or trading for him, and they can get a third-round pick back next year. That was the condition if Sam Bradford does not start for the Eagles at all, or less than 8 games, or pardon, whatever. If he gets injured again, it's a third-round draft pick. So they could get a third next year, even though they're going to lose a second, they can get a third. So the Mariota possibility is still there, but it's becoming very bleak after that second-round pick they gave up, because I don't think it's very likely, because if a team wanted Bradford, honestly, they might have not took the risk and just went up and got him. But it's possible. It's still in it. Just because Sam Bradford at a press conference and talked about how happy he is to be on the Eagles doesn't mean that we're not going to get rid of him. Like, oh, okay, he thinks he's on the team. We're keeping him now. Absolutely not. It's still very much in play if Mariota starts to fall. But Chip said it's not going to happen. And with all the moves they're making, I feel like it's not going to happen either. Which kind of is depressing, because when you go out and you sign DeMarco Murray, you steal him from the Dallas Cowboys, the arch rival. You go out and sign another running back in Ryan Matthews. So you basically get 2 running backs for the price of 1 in LeSean McCoy. You get DeMarco Murray and Ryan Matthews. And you get Kiko basically in that trade. So you got Kiko, and then you got 2 really good running backs. The leading rusher last year with 1,800 yards and 13 touchdowns. 1,800 yards and 43 to be exact for DeMarco Murray. You steal him from Dallas, and you get Ryan Matthews. That backfield is loaded now with Darren Sproles too and Chris Polk, 4 guys that can run the football. Heck, you don't need Jeremy Maclin and those guys. But Sam Bradford will be, to me, fine in this offense. I think we're going to be a very good team next year with Sam Bradford at quarterback, because he's not going to have to do too much as long as he's healthy. You can run the football with all those guys, run a rotation, and you don't have Maclin, you don't have an elite receiver, but you have a great athletic tight end in Zach Ertz. You have a Swiss Army knife that Chip Kelly called in Darren Sproles. You have Jordan Matthews, a very young, promising receiver who almost had 1,000 yards last year as a rookie. You have Josh Huff, who has lightning quickness and speed. And if they don't go up and get Mariota this year, you probably will draft a receiver in the first 2 rounds. Maybe it's 6'5", 6'6", Dorial Green Beckham, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Played for Mizzou, of course, but has recently been transferred over to Oklahoma. Maybe it's Jalen Strong from Arizona State, a tall, fast, strong player, very complete. Could plug him in right now. He's a hometown guy from Philadelphia. Or maybe you decide you get Landon Collins with that pick. Maybe he falls and you address that safety spot in the second round. You know what you do? You go get Devin Smith from Ohio State. He's a burner. He can play that Z receiver's position. Fine, perfect. He might not match the production of Macklin and Deshaun here. Correction, he won't match that production. But damn, he could put up 800, 900 yards in that position and let Jordan Matthews continue to thrive in the slot. And then, heck, put Josh Huff on the other side. I'm okay with that receiving core when you have all the other weapons on your team, a strong offensive line, and an incredible running game now. Downhill runners. DeMarco Murray is going to be a perfect fit in this offense. And I think DeMarco Murray kind of healed the wounds for a lot of Eagles fans who were disappointed that the Eagles weren't going to get Mariota and that were upset about the Bradford deal. DeMarco Murray patches that up a little bit, and it feels good that we have DeMarco Murray and we stole Dallas. Granted, it costs a little bit more money, but would you rather have DeMarco Murray for the same price as LeSean McCoy and Kiko Alonso, or would you rather have LeSean McCoy? As much as I love McCoy, I'm sorry, I'm all about a Super Bowl right now. I'm not going to get close ties with any receiver, with any player, and I think that it's perfect. Our team is built right now to win. Now, we have a great young, but at the same time, if we don't win now, we have pieces for the future. We have an incredibly young defense that is playing very good NFL football right now. The only thing is on offense, we need to get younger at offensive line, but we have Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson, very young players, and Jason Peters still playing at a high level. Every position, receiver, we have 2 young guys, and we're going to have 3 productive players. Ryan Matthews is a very young running back, and DeMarco Murray's 27. He has at least 5 good years left in him. Zach Ertz, coming into his 3rd season. Sam Bradford's only 27 years old. Give this a 3-year window. Give Chip Kelly time. Don't run him out of the building this year if they're 8-8 and they just miss the playoffs. Don't run him out of the building if, maybe this Bradford experiment doesn't work. Give him 3 seasons. And I bet you if Bradford, and the only way a Super Bowl or a deep playoff run happens, say Chip Kelly does not get Mariota and he banks on Sam Bradford, if Sam Bradford is healthy and Chip Kelly can work with that offense, build pieces around him, he's already got the running back position well, this team can win a Super Bowl in 3 years. I believe in Chip Kelly. And Chip we have to trust now because he's put all his eggs in one basket. In 3 years, maybe if Sam Bradford is plagued with injuries again, he's not the guy that he's the guy that fans thought he was, but he's not the guy Chip Kelly thought he was, and Pat Shurmur, then you can think about running Chip out of town. But you got to give him time. You got to give him this season. You got to give him the next season and the year after. Because you know what I can see happening? I can see maybe digressing a little bit this year with all the players trying to gel, maybe an 8-8 season. But then the next year you take that next step. You win the NFC East. You maybe make a deep playoff run, but I'm looking at the Colts formula here. Bear with me. You get the Colts move, right? They get making playoffs with a young rookie Andrew Luck. They lose in the first round to the Baltimore eventual Super Bowl champion Ravens. But then the next year you take another step. You win a playoff game against the Chiefs, the 2nd biggest comeback in NFL history, besides the Bills versus Houston Oilers. And then this year they take another step. They get to the AFC Championship game. They get blown out by the Patriots, but they beat the Broncos in the divisional round, a statement. Now they're ready to make the Super Bowl run. Give the Eagles that 3-year period too. Let them compete for a playoff spot next year. That's it. Then the year later, let them get to potentially a Super Bowl. And if not a Super Bowl, it could be a deep playoff run. It's got to be a 3-year window, though. After 3 years, I think that then you can start very harshly criticizing Chip Kelly. And it might not even be 3 years. If Bradford tears an ACL or 2, or bad things, and he's plagued, he can't stay on the field, then Chip probably gets one more chance at a quarterback, and after that... So, yes, in total, I'm kind of thinking a lot here, so bear with me. 3-year window for Chip Kelly. But you have to let him build, because this is his first year running... Heck, this is his 3rd year in the NFL. And he's fully running a roster. Obviously, he's not doing it alone. You got Ed Manowitz, the VIP of football operations, Chip Kelly's in-house hire. But you got to give him time, and I think it's 3 years with the Sam Bradford thing. If we get Marcus Mariota... Give him all the time he needs because it's going to blow up. Next year, now let's do expectations for Mariota. Next year, expect again, an 8-8 type season. But then the next year, I think it might even be it'll be the same, honestly, to me. But I think the upside is far better with Mariota. Maybe Sam Bradford's like that Andy Dalton that can't get us to the next level. Will be a playoff team for years. But I think Mariota in this system could get us a Super Bowl within 2 seasons. I really believe that. When this offense is clicking, it's unstoppable. Look at that 24-0 run the Eagles had that Sunday night game against the Dallas Cowboys when they came back after being down 21-0. Look at that as your blueprint of what this offense can be with the right pieces. And right now, this is what, if these are the guys Chip believes are the right pieces. Heck, if Sam Bradford is that your quarterback for the right piece in this system, go. Go. Now is the time. Let's run your high-paced offense in the sense of urgency for a Super Bowl. Go right now, because this is the time. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it now. And Chip Kelly knows that, and Jeffrey Lurie knows that, and that's why they made this huge move in the offseason. So, in other news, before we wrap up the show in the first edition of Inside the Nest, Tim Tebow worked out with Philadelphia. Like it couldn't get any better. Tim Tebow works out with the Eagles, and now there's reports from Pro Football Talk of NBC Sports Network that if the Eagles find a way to trade Matt Barkley, their third-string quarterback, who, after being a fourth-round pick in 2013, hasn't shown much of anything in the sense of being able to play at a high level in the NFL, they could trade him for a late-round pick, or plain sight just release him. The Eagles might sign Tim Tebow as your third-string quarterback to go with Sam Bradford and Mark Sanchez. How do you feel about that? I personally am okay with it if the media didn't care about the guy. Because yes, he can't throw very well, but he can throw enough to where we're down 2 guys. I'll take that running ability and that athleticism and the average to low, mediocre passing skills. I'll take that over Matt Barkley any day. You need Tim Tebow to win you a game, or Matt Barkley. Who are you taking? You're taking Tim Tebow. But it's the media stuff. But heck, we're already getting the media stuff from Chip Kelly. So bring Tebow in. Now it would be more fun if we had Mariota starting and you bring Tebow in. Kind of mentor him as a mobile quarterback, so on and so forth. I don't know why you'd want a guy out of the league for 2 years as your mentor, but I can see a lot of good things in Tebow, and he's a character guy, hence why Chip Kelly loves him so much. Am I skeptical of Chip Kelly? Heck yeah. And I'll get into him more in more podcasts. This is more recapping all of the events. We'll talk more scenarios about Mariota, maybe what this team is going to do later on. But I'm very skeptical of his offense because of how it affects the defense, and I'm very skeptical of the moves he's making, getting rid of star power. But at the same time, I see what he's trying to do. I'm not like some of the fans that are like, what is he doing? What is he trying to do? I can see what he's trying to do. We just gotta wait and see. Time will tell what happens, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. So, stay tuned next week on Wednesday for Inside the Nest, podcast number 2. We're gonna kind of talk about how this free agency stuff now affects the draft. We're kind of talking a little bit about more of the same stuff with roster moves, it's the safety position and wide receiver. Of course, we'll get some more Mariota talk and maybe get a guest on. So that's what we got coming up next week. Make sure you follow me on Twitter again at DB Sports Talk. I'm always willing to talk some Eagles with you guys. Make sure you read my stuff on NFLoffseason.sportsblog.com. This podcast has been brought to you by Sportsblog. It's a great blogging website for any sports writer looking to create a name for themselves. That's how we kicked it off. And it's been a great ride so far within the past few weeks that we've been with the website. So make sure you tune into our other podcast. Me and fellow writer, NFL offseason writer Dave Crescenti will be doing Draft Talk podcast, Mock Draft Weekly, and Reckless Speculation, which will just be an NFL talk show. So we got 5 podcasts on the slate each week. So we got a busy month coming up, heading into the countdown to the NFL Draft, which kicks off April 26th in Chicago. So that's going to do it for today's Inside the Nest podcast. We thank you for joining us, and make sure you tune in next Wednesday. Go Birds.